This begins part 2 on the 94 F-150 flip. Part 1, we bought it. We ascertained what was wrong with it. Basically, the crank pulley and the alternator bracket were loose, and that's why it was not drivable. I got it tightened up just good enough to limp it home. All right, first drive in the sketchy Ford. We're talking very sketchy Ford. It acted like it had not run in a long time. It smoked like crazy. Yeah. Oh, and the engine, it's making noises. Yeah. All right, so now with the serpentine belt off, you can see what I mean when I say this alternator bracket was just flopping in the wind. I mean, that was as tight. Damn. Yeah, see that? I don't know how obvious. I mean, you've got like, yeah. Man, that's how I drove it home. Yeah, that's how I drove it home. Oh, for Pete's sake. Yeah, there's one bolt in there, and I'm hoping that's not stripped out. But that's the one that I tightened. And I thought I had it pretty tight. Now I'm afraid even that's... Anyways, yeah, it's, it's not... Even the one bolt is no longer... Oh, no. Is that stripped? Oh, man. All right, so we're going to remove all this and find out how many stripped out bolts we've got stuck in the head. Jeez. Oh, pardon my French. I didn't mean to say that. Yeah, I was going to say some other stuff, but now I'm kind of distressed. So let me work on getting this out so we can assess just how much damage we're working with. All right, so now with the alternator removed, we can start getting our first look at this alternator bracket, and we have some weird stuff going on. I mean, number one, this bracket is not secured to the engine. And as you can see, somebody was doing some weird stuff and somebody knew something was not right. I hope I don't wind up having to buy a cylinder head, but as you can see, they got all this JB weld up on it. There's one hole. Maybe we get lucky and there's still threads in it. They just had the wrong size bolt. And then there's this hole, which has a bolt stuck off in it. Yeah, that's gonna be a challenge. Yeah, we got a bolt stuck in the cylinder head right there, and it's not poking out so that we could attempt to remove it. So we're gonna get these air pump hoses removed, and we're gonna remove all of this assemblage. But man, with all this JB weld that somebody schmoozed on here, like, what were you doing? What were you thinking? Like, that's not gonna, yeah, that's not gonna hold anything. All right, so we got the bracket out. First glance at it, there's 3 big obvious places where this thing bolts to the engine. There, which I believe is the one bolt that I had that seemed to work. There, which is the one that I knew was stuck off in the head. And there, which I also believe is stuck off in the engine. Like I said, we had 3 main bolt holes for that bracket. They're there, there, and there. This is the one that I suspected was broke off in the head. And as you can see, it is broken off in the head. And it's broken off down in there. So we got that one, which is stuck off in there. And the same story for this one down there. So somebody, somehow, I mean, you'd almost have to be trying, but somebody somehow broke off 2 bolts inside of the cylinder head. Now this one, I think may be fine, although I kind of suspect that this is the wrong hardware, because look at all those washers. That doesn't seem right. Also, and you see some dripping there, mentioned I smelled that this truck had an antifreeze leak. It's just this one little hose. It's this hose right here. It's got a pinhole leak right up there where it bolts to the intake manifold. You can see that. Yeah, see it's squirting. Here's where we're at. The sign of pure desperation. Brand new set of easy outs. So we are going to attempt to do this. And working down in here, we're gonna have limited clearance to get the drill in. In fact, I'm probably gonna have to remove this coolant hose and probably dump a bunch of coolant on the ground. But that is the state of things. All right, I'm now recording. This is not, I do not normally like recording myself while I'm actually doing work. But this one I gotta get on video because I'm not sure what's happening, but I think I gotta guess what might be happening because I don't want to say anything because we don't want to jinx anything. Come on, get on there. But check it out. I think, I pray, oh my God, can you believe that? Oh, somebody's gonna be sleeping good tonight. Oh, I feel like the most powerful man on the face of the planet right now. I just got to do that one more time and I'm free. Yeah, I think we got full haulage. All right, so that's number one. Number two is up here, and that's gonna be trickier because I got less clearance to get my wrench or my drill up in there. So, man, I may have to go back to the hardware store for a damn tap. I need to make damn sure I got the right hardware going in there next time around. All right, on to number two. And with that, I'm now 2 for 2. So I can't believe, I cannot believe that worked. That was so satisfying. But yeah, these two bolts right here were broken off in that hole and that hole, and they were broken off down in there. Now I think the saving grace that made this work as smoothly as it did is that I believe these bolts broke going in because the wrong hardware was used, not coming out because of corrosion. So I think that helps us in a situation like this. So we may have to retap those holes, we may not, we don't know. But the next step is go to the junkyard, find a Ford 5.0 like this one, and pull all of that hardware, all of the bolts, keep track of exactly what goes where. If we can get all that, get those holes tapped, we should be able to get that alternator in there and have this thing truly running and drivable. Oh, and also the 2 bolts for the crank pulley, but that's kind of more secondary. And that should really fix the main issue why this thing was not drivable and sold as such. Anyways, yeah, we got to go to the junkyard. There's a couple different junkyards in play that may have the stuff that we need. But yeah, you never know when you go to the junkyard what you're going to find. So before I go to the junkyard, I just want to see if I can possibly make progress on one of the other things happening here. So here's the issue is something is not correct with this gear shift. When you go down to neutral and drive, and the problem is neutral and drive are weird because now this gear shift is rubbing on this trim piece. Like the gear shift can't even drop, it can't even drop all the way down into drive because it's hitting that piece. So I'm like, what on earth gives? What is happening? Something, oh, I know what that is. That is a Dorman part sign. That means that this shifter stock is aftermarket. And I'm pretty sure that this shifter is different. See that? The shape of that is different, really. And I'm pretty sure that's the issue. I'm gonna see if I can grab an F-150 one from the junkyard, but I think that shifter might be some kind of universal kit that goes with Ranger, Aerostar, things that have different trim around the column. So even though that shifter bolts up to this steering column, the trim around it is different depending on the model line. And so that thing does not have the clearance to work with the F-150. Well, I'm at the junkyard and it's not looking good for us. Yeah, these must hold some kind of value if this one is as picked over as it is. All right, so I'm at the second place now. I'm having a little bit better luck than the first place. Try not to step on the glare, get caught up in the glass. In the sense that I got this. And I got a spare one here in case I need that. And I got that door handle right there. So I got a door handle and a window crank. The beautiful thing about this particular junkyard, this S&W place, is that they yank all the engines and trans before they put them on the lot. So once you go to the self-serve lot, yeah, I don't know how else to say it. There's no engines or trans. So yeah, I'm having bad luck finding an intact 302 Ford, unfortunately. So I was thinking, okay, well, at least get the window crank and the door handle, and that'll be something for today. Then I remembered I need this right here, don't I? Because I got that dormant piece of shit in there. And so yeah, we're up to like a $1,400 truck. I mean, it's either I charge for easy outs or I charge for gas driving around all the pull parts. Our main task today, our main task period, is we have to get that whole bracketry piece, smog pump alternator bracket, bolted to this engine. And there's more than one way to skin a cat. So my original intention was I'm just gonna go to the junkyard and get the hardware because I don't know how this goes together. Clearly whoever put it together last did it wrong. So I wanna see how it actually goes together and get the actual bolts and know where all the individual bolts go. We're gonna assume we can't just walk up to one of these in a junkyard and take it apart and examine it. So we're gonna have to do things more the research way. This one is a 7/16 by 14 pitch thread. The other two are 3/8 by 16. I think, based on my internet research. One of the things that I ascertained from the internet was that with these mounting brackets on the front of these 302s for the accessory drives, it's pretty common for everything that goes in the engine to be American and everything that goes around the engine to be metric. And I think that's kind of what may have led us to our issue here. So this was the one bolt, this one with all the washers on it. This was the one bolt that was holding that alternator bracket onto the engine. And when I got to the hardware store, I realized that's a metric bolt. So that's probably why it was wrong to begin with. And probably all those other bolts were not the right threads at all. So we now have 3 freshly tapped holes with nice clean threads, hopefully. I got a couple different sizes or lengths of bolts because I wasn't sure what to get. Also got the new bolts for the crank pulley there. Speaking of damn loose bolts on pulleys, I'm just now noticing that if you look right here, these fan pulley bolts, I mean, at least one of them is not tight. So I'm like, man, is every accessory drive pulley bolt on this thing loose? I mean, weird stuff. All right, so I've got an update. It's not good. I'm trying to put the tensioner back on. I'm trying to bolt this thing into the magnesium alternator bracket, and I've damaged it. I've damaged the bracket, which, as I mentioned yesterday, is completely impossible to find locally. You can see there's all this, I'm basically just chewing the threads out of it. All right, so this is my final Hail Mary of the day. All right, so the helicoil going in part is actually done. Smooth as butter, honestly. The issue now is we have to bend that tang off because of the design of this and the integrated bolt. It's gonna have to go through there. Tang came off with a pair of needle nose pliers. About as easy as the rest of it. So it's almost like things are going well. I'm gonna now attempt to bolt the tensioner to here, and it would be fine if this didn't work. It's all well and good and in the sake of experiment. However, because as you bolt this thing on here, it's building spring pressure. I'm concerned that if our threads do fail, that we could be creating a safety hazard. So, all right, one alternator bracket and tensioner assembly, rebuilt by Craigslist Gold. I'm looking at the alignment of these pulleys. Yeah, it's quite visible there. I'm looking at the alignment of these pulleys. I'm like, that ain't gonna fly. This may be the end of this experiment. So here's what we got. This is the best we can do. and it ain't great. Crookeder than a dog's dick, as Dad would say. But you know what? I'm desperate and crazy. Yeah, you know where this is going, right? For science. All right, so I loosely bolted everything back together. What the hell? I'm gonna give the key a twirl. There's a pretty good chance I could shoot a belt and or a tensioner straight into the radiator, which at this point is looking like the best part of this whole deal. But I don't want this thing in my garage. Belt's on it. I mean, I don't want to get too close to anything. But the belt's on it. I mean, not sure what that sound is. What the hell? I'm calling it yard drivable and parking it. All right, so bottom line so far, Reedman and Weep, we're at $1,500 for this truck. So, like I said, I think it's worth $3,000. So here's our list of stuff, and hopefully we are past the most expensive parts of this, although that's never really how it works. All right, so I got her cranked back up, topped off the fluids and stuff. Getting quite a bit of belt noise there. I don't know if that's the truck's way of telling me that my silly tensioner, helicoil, crooked ass pulley deal is not satisfactory. That's kind of what it feels like it's telling me. I also kind of feel like I shouldn't be in the same zip code as this thing without a good, sturdy pair of safety glasses, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's a pretty aggressive belt noise. And I'm possibly mildly concerned about it. Listen, I want to go to the gas station. I want to put a fresh tank at 93 or 96. We'll go with 96 for the Olympics and all that. Do they sell that? Wing windows, that's all I need to know. I know I'm normally pretty sleazy, but that's a damn loud belt curve. All right, got her dolled up with some air in the tires, take her to the gas station. I just want to know how much fuel I got, you know what I mean? Because the gauge supposedly doesn't work. I'll tell you what does work, the odometer. The odometer has worked the entire time I've owned this thing. I'm realizing now. I don't know why they sold it to me saying the odometer was down. From everything I can tell, I don't think this odometer is dead. I don't think it ever was dead. I'll tell you what, the thing runs like a scalded dog. It is strong, especially because mine is on 33s, and that really dulls the throttle response, but not this thing. I'm telling you, I think it runs damn good, as a matter of fact. All right, well, I just put 10 gallons of 93 octane in there, along with a can of Berryman's. I'll be damned if that fuel gauge did not come right up. That odometer is working, and that fuel gauge is working. The guy sold it to me thinking the fuel gauge didn't work, and I think he just hadn't driven it a while, and it was low on gas, and he just didn't really know what it did. But I'm calling that fuel gauge good. Now some fresh gas, because this thing sat for quite some time before I picked it up, ought to run it even better. You know, I always like to throw 93 in these old cars. It's like I always say about 93, aside from my sister being born, it wasn't too bad. I'm gonna come up here and just take a spin around the old block. I don't want to drive it real far with that sketchy pulley situation. I feel like I'm about to throw a belt right off it. But while we're in here, we can check out the heat and the air and some other stuff and sit in traffic. Yeah. But the acceleration factor, whew, and the trans even shifts pretty good. I'm loving it. Let's see if we can turn around here. Yeah, this thing runs damn good, and I'll tell you what, those tires might still be a little bit of flat spotted. I filled them up with air just now, and they had like no air in them, so that was probably half our issue. And then you've got the fact that I was driving it with the flat spotted tires and the door half shut, so the door's clanging around the whole time. I'll tell you, with the door actually shut, the shaking is not nearly as noticeable, although it doesn't really shake on these city streets whatsoever. But man, it's so strong. It's something, I'm telling you, that acceleration is, it is nothing like that stupid lifted truck. I might have to keep this. Oh, the heat works, by the way. Yeah. The heat's working. Haven't tested the AC, but oh yeah. Burn those flat spots off, baby. All right, so actually the very first interior thing I'm gonna do, and I may reverse my opinion on this, but I'm gonna rip this damn seat cover off just to see what we're working with underneath. I'll be honest with you. I don't hate this as much as I hate a lot of things. And I definitely am I hate a lot of things. But I'm gonna rip this off, and we're just gonna go with this old 1994 International school bus material, because I think it's honestly in pretty good shape. See what that does for it, because I can never find my seatbelt in here, and that's frustrating. Another thing I realized while I was on my back here messing with this is this motherfucker is on. What are you doing? So normally on these you adjust on this, but that's not causing anything to happen. And you can feel when you operate this light switch that something is amiss within the light switch. And the other thing that's amiss about this light switch that I actually noticed previously is when you cut the headlights on, the dashboard lights do not come on unless you take this to the dome light position. All right, so this is the transformation that we got by removing that seat cover. This looks decent, it looks good. I kind of think it comes across a little bit better in person than it is in these pictures that I'm showing you here. It's a very school bus-like material, this stuff. Another thing I'm realizing, I'm probably not going to focus on this today. This is the passenger side window crank, and the issue for this is that, well, I got a new crank, but that's got a screw that goes down the center of it. It looks like they broke a screw off in the hole there. All right, so this is what I decided to do for this. That broken off bolt's still in there, a screw is still in there. Here's the thing, is these are almost like an damn press fit. Like really the way this fits over the splines is almost enough to keep it secure. The screw's just kind of there for backup. I kind of feel like for the passenger side, for something that's gonna be used occasionally, I'm just using it, I mean, you know, like I always would, that's probably fine. And if it pops off in the future, whoever's sitting here can just knock it back on. All right, so got the steering column covered. We are in disco mode now, apparently. I don't know how to end disco mode. Oh, it's accelerating. Now that we have access to this, it's gonna be, yeah, I think I can do this mechanically. All right, so the old column shifter is out. It's there. And that's not, I just wanna, hold on. I just wanna demonstrate temporarily, or momentarily, whatever the word is, that that is not the right shape for this particular vehicle application. So, yeah, I don't know how obvious it is. Oh hell, I hope those are two different shapes. I think they are. If they're not, then I need to go back to the drawing board. But I think those are two totally different shapes, which is why this never really worked very well. Moral of the story here. Oh yeah, moral of the story. We gotta have morals, right? Otherwise, why would you watch Craigslist Gold? Fresh set of morals coming right up. Yeah, buddy. The moral of the story, one of the first things I noticed that concerned me about this truck when I first got in it was the gear shifts did not make sense. It did not seem to work right. I was concerned what was wrong with it. Well, now it works. And before, that Dorman aftermarket was like made to fit a Ranger or who the hell knows. And also, this is all broken. It's kind of annoying. This whole trim piece is, all the fasteners for it are broken off. And then this steering column right here, this is kind of held on with hopes and dreams, but just barely. So if I could possibly ever ascertain this, all of this, and this at the junkyard for like 10 or 15 bucks. That'd be a major score. Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but this beautiful vinyl floor material right here had this piece of house carpeting over it. That's interesting. Yeah. That's also interesting. Less interesting. Much less interesting. What, why was there... Is that for a floor shifter? And our next mystery of the night, why is that bed light on? But doing that seems to do, using that seems to do nothing. Yeah, I did a little bit of research, and as it turns out, that cargo light, like the dome light, is operated off of the headlight switch, which we kind of know is kind of bad. All right, so they just got this in at the junkyard 4 days ago while I was in South Carolina. It is a 5.0, but unfortunately, this is a damn 1992. So the weird thing about these 92, 96s is the alternator bracket is different between a 92 and a 93 to 96. Weirdest thing, but yeah, so that does not really help us. I may try and grab that headlight switch because I do believe I need that. I think it'd be cheap. A couple lug nuts. If I can find a lug wrench out here. Well, first off, I need a damn lug wrench. So actually, if I can find a lug wrench in or around this thing that works, I will buy that as well. So now I'm over here at S&W. They've got two, this brown one and that red one. But I did get this steering column trim, which I needed. And the associated screws. But I got one more idea up my sleeve before I just go ahead and buy a new alternator bracket. And the idea is essentially to shim that tensioner so that it seats on there straight. So what's happening now is, in a word, ill-advised. That is a washer which is hastily glued onto this alternator bracket, which I am going to attempt to use to shim the tensioner going in. I don't think that this is smart. I don't think this is good. So here's what we've got now. Is that better? Or is that the same? If it's better, it sure is not entirely better. Part of me kind of wants to believe in Santa Claus. All right. So this is attempt number 2 with the thicker washer. I will ask the viewer what he or she thinks about that. I mean, it's closer, so I think that is substantially straighter. It sure as hell doesn't stick out as bad as it did. Oh, also, I don't know if I pointed this out before, but earlier in this whole thing when I had the alternator bracket off, I came to the conclusion, or the realization, I suppose, that several of these valve cover fasteners, it's harder to see from this angle, but they're just visibly loose. They're like not even hand tight. There it is with the belt back on. I haven't tried to start it, crank it, run it, but who the hell knows? Maybe that's good enough. All right, so it's now the day after yesterday. I got it cranked up, and I was gonna say that now that it's not squealing horribly, I was thinking I might take it down the interstate, try and drive the flat spots out of those tires. It honestly looks fine. I think that's kind of passable, to be honest. All right, so this is the highway test / warming up the tires surveillance where we are attempting to drive the flat spots out of them. I'll tell you what, it drives pretty good. It feels pretty healthy. The steering wheel, it's a little bit out of alignment. The belt squeal is pretty horrendous. Look at it, I got all kinds of debris flying out of it. We're up to 65 miles an hour per the speedometer, and feels pretty solid. It definitely, the tires are definitely causing a shake. I'm hoping they're getting better. I'm gonna try and, you know, run her down the highway at full speed, and hope not to lose a belt, hope not to lose an alternator or a tensioner or a bracket, any of that stuff I got scabbed together up there. We're approaching 70 miles an hour. All our indications are normal, I think. I don't know if that alternator charges or not, so I'm hoping I don't get stranded out here. I'm hoping all my lug nuts are tight. Yeah, I do need to have it aligned. I've made the executive decision. Around town, it's almost passable, but yeah, it will absolutely pull if you let it on the highway. That belt squeal is absolutely not going away. It's a nasty belt squeal. All right, a little bit of a traffic test, so that's good. We're building confidence in it, seeing what it does and doesn't do. It doesn't look like it's heating up. Oh, and I'm not hearing the belt anymore. Yeah, which I don't know if I should be scared or happy. Yeah, I don't hear the belt anymore, so either it figured itself out or I'm about to start seeing that gauge go up and that gauge go down. But here's the real kicker. I turned the AC on, and yeah, there's no doubt that AC is working. It is actively refrigerating. So we've got working heat, we've got working AC. That radio I haven't gotten to do anything, but I mean, it's almost like I would rather have a radio that I just can't get to come on whatsoever, because and the brakes are decent. The brakes are actually pretty dang decent. I would almost rather have the radio just not come on at all, because then it's almost got to be something easy, like just a random short fuse. I don't know. Maybe the whole Pioneer head unit. But I can't imagine that's going to be terribly difficult to diagnose. The trans seems amazing. You know, when I bought this, I noticed the trans fluid was totally red, nothing in it. I mean, no clutch material, no friction material, no black stuff. Plus, the fluid itself was actually cherry red. It was not burnt. All the shifts, all crisp and concise. But everything I can tell about the engine is awesome. I do think there's a bit of an exhaust leak somewhere in there. So I just want to point out, after really getting this thing up to temperature for the first time for an extended period today, because I drove, probably a good 10 miles out on the highway, 10 miles back, sat in some traffic, got it up to temperature, held it there for a while, drove it around. There is not a single drip of any kind of fluid, substance, liquid, or any kind of contraband under this truck. It's pretty damn solid. All right, so with our highway road test complete, I want to take this thing in and get it balanced and aligned, but I'm thinking before I hand it off to somebody else, what I really want is to fix that headlight switch, and I want to fix that door handle, and maybe a couple other piddly little things just before I give the keys to someone else and have them start and stop and getting in and out of it. So we've got some of our treasures here. First things first, driver's door handle. So you got the door panel off. Came off in a hurry. I mean, these things aren't held on by much to begin with, and then, you know, on this truck with half the screws missing, it's even less. So not real hard to get that door panel off. And then there's the old one. These are really, really easy to replace. And there's our fresh Junkyard unit. Yeah, that's a luxury. Bam, baby. All right, so we're digging into her a little bit, trying to replace this headlight switch over here. And a few notes and observations about this thing. Number one, this is a big gauge cluster surround trim. This piece of trim is effectively toast for us. There is nothing holding it to the dashboard currently because the three, or well, I mean, obviously not now, but even when it's in place, there's nothing holding it to the dashboard because the three main fasteners for this thing are all broken off. There's supposed to be three plastic studs essentially there, and they thread through this little metal thing and yada, yada, yada. Anyways, this is toast. It's never going to bolt back up to the dashboard of this thing, which is fine. It's just really trashy. There's companies just printing these things. 25 bucks a pop on eBay all day long for this whole piece. So that's the beautiful thing about owning about these old Ford trucks or any old American trucks, is the parts are so plentiful. That's a beautiful thing. And we've got our headlight switch there. We've got screws now for when we put our steering column cover back together that we got at the junkyard. Another thing that I discovered was I was kind of like, I had this thing off and I was starting to like look at the back of the radio because I've never gotten this thing to come on, and I would like to, diagnose it. You know, I hope it's just something simple like a short somewhere in here. The most important thing right now is this headlight switch right here. All right, now here are our headlight switches for comparison, old versus new. This is new. It's off a junkyard truck, but it was clearly replaced on that truck shortly before it went to the junkyard. I mean, this is still pretty new. See that coiled spraying up in there? That's how it dims your dashboard lights. And then at the very end, if you take that dial and you click it over all the way at the very end, boop, that is your dome light and your, on these trucks, bed light. So dashboard lights, dome light, and bed light. So with our previous headlight switch, as you'll recall, we had a couple issues. Number one, our dashboard lights didn't work. And then the bed light and the dome light stayed on continuously even when you shut the lights off. So yeah. That is what a completely fried up headlight switch looks like. I got everything back together and we got some things fixed up. I got that trim panel right there back in. That hood release is, it's, let's say, fine. I got screws in the steering column cover for the first time, so that's a lot more solid, that's a lot nicer. I got my, obviously the door handle is there. We made so many progress on so many little things. And then the headlight switch I got in, and this, as it should, it's well behaved. It comes open on, or comes on a open door. Yeah, what else did I have in the interior? The gear shift is fixed. The window crank is good enough. The door handle is fixed. The light switch is fixed. And anyways, we gotta turn our attention to this silvery box right here. Yeah, so I popped the electrical connection out. And on these radios, where that electrical connection goes in, there's a nice little tiny 10 amp fuse. And it's blown. So yeah, nice easy diagnosis. Got the wheels rounded out with a couple of fresh lug nuts from the junkyard, and I fixed those using my lug wrench that was part of my tools that I brought in with me to this junkyard. Yeah, so our truck has a lug wrench now. And the thing is, with these tires, I'm trying to gauge salvageability. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to say anything like that. I didn't mean to call anything into doubt. But these tires, this one is the one that I look at and I think, I wonder, because you got these, and I'm thinking there's got to be some kind of like, with all the technology that exists in our modern age, there's got to be some kind of spray-on black rubber to just kind of fill in these cracks. You know, like that damn spray-on hair for when you start, not that I've ever looked into spray-on hair, but something in a can, you know what I mean? So this was our original list of how we were gonna attack this thing, and I've started working through it, and I could start crossing off things on this list and modifying this list, or I could just declare this list obsolete and make a new one. Now, the new list is longer, but that's not scary. That's actually a good thing. I mean, this list was very like broad, big picture items, and a lot of that is actually done. And now that I've fixed a lot of stuff and narrowed down what I actually need to do and got to know what this thing needs, I've got a more granular list of a bunch of tasks that have been broken down into very, very easy steps. All right, so just heading home from our first highway pull after the tire shop. Had this thing aligned and balanced for 160 bucks. Hey, they did their best with it. It's probably a little bit better than before. It's certainly not perfect. But yeah, if you take your hand off the steering wheel starts to drift to the left and the whole truck starts to drift to the left. I'm like, if an alignment can't fix that, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some bentness to the frame of this thing that occurred whenever it got, because it's been a total truck. It's been salvaged and brought back. So yeah, it may just always drive like that, and it may just be a crooked pig we got. Yeah, I guess it's time to pressure wash. Look at, I think it's going to be beautiful. All right, so just want to get a good before on this thing. Before and after on the roof. First cut on the hood. I don't think the lighting's the best. It's not perfect, but we're going to hand soap wash, wax, buff this whole thing. I gotta tell you, I got a pretty good feeling about this paint. All right, so this is post-pressure washing. Of course, that's only step one. I'm gonna hand wash this probably tonight. And I am gonna wax it. It's definitely cleaner. Bed's seen a lot, or that tailgate's seen a lot of use. This is a work truck at some point. It was a fleet vehicle. Yeah, this is only the beginning. I'm very hopeful about how this thing turns out, paint-wise. Yeah, this is before and after soap washing. I don't know how obvious it is, but man, a lot was left over by the pressure washing. But what is left over is like the soapy water just cutting through it like warm butter. Yep, very good stuff. So here it is in the light of day. You can definitely tell it's clean. I think what is harder to tell in pictures for a white vehicle is the condition of the paint. You know, in pictures, when you get a dark vehicle cleaned up and you can see all the reflections and stuff, you can see how the paint really pops if it's in decent shape. I'd say this thing is more than cleaned up. I would say we've uncovered a pretty good paint job. All right, so I feel safe saying, barring any unforeseen occurrences, we're entering the home stretch of this flip. So one last big AutoZone run, about 200 bucks. 186, we'll round up to 200. So here's where we're at money-wise. We were at $1,500 And then we spent kind of a bunch of money on balancing and aligning. That and a couple other bills brought us up to 17. This brings us up to about 19. And you can bet there's another $100 somewhere in there. So we're looking at a $2,000 truck. And here's the crazy thing about these flips. You will spend $1,000 on a flip, period. Absent of any major cost. Absent of even the thing that actually parked this truck was basically free to fix. And yet I still have driven $1,000 into this truck. Same thing with my last flip. I spent $1,000 on it, $900. I spent $1,000 on it. The thing that actually was broken, why I bought the car for to fix, that part was like $50 or something crazy low like that. In my experience, when you buy a flip, even if like the underlying thing you buy it to fix is free, absent that cost, your base cost to take a car, get it up to speed, let it back out in the wild, you're going to spend $1,000. It's just going to happen. So I bought it for $1,000. I'm in it for approaching $2,000, not quite $2,000, but approaching $2,000. And so now it's time to think about, where do we stop? And the Craigslist Gold market strategies. So it would be great to throw a second fuel tank on this thing. Be cheap enough, relatively speaking. Be nice to, honestly, get chrome bumpers from the Junkyard, because I can, and a chrome grill, and new headlights, because they sell this whole front grill headlight turn signal marker light assembly for they sell this whole assembly for something crazy, like $35 on the internet. But you got to stop somewhere. That's one thing I've learned with these. So we're trying to stop at about $2,000. Here's the other thing we have to start thinking about is our asking price. Now, two things that I will say about asking prices of cars like this on the Craigslist space. Number one, I don't like to go high on the pretense that I'm going to have to get talked down. So like the last thing I sold, it was the Saturn. I thought, and I said, I want 25 and I'm going to ask 25. And I asked 25 and lady showed up, paid full asking price, never even asked if I was negotiable. No questions asked, 25, here you go. And that was a reasonable price for that car. I asked a reasonable price, I got a reasonable price. Could I have asked 3? Maybe, but then it's possible I would have sat around trying to sell that thing for weeks, lowering the price. Meanwhile, it's languishing on the market. Everybody's wondering why. And then ultimately, I take less than 25. That's the way I see it. So number one on prices, you can just see how well this paint came around. Number one on prices, I don't like to go high. I'm not going to say I like to go low. I'm just going to say I don't like to go high. Number two thing on prices, I think the human brain handles car prices in intervals of 500. So what happens to people is they get stuck between, they get stuck between a couple numbers and they come up with some crazy number like 2750. I don't believe in selling cars that way. I don't know why. I got no research to back this up. I got no theory to back this up. But I'm like, if you're trying to sell a car, you got to ask an even 5 at least. 25, 35, $3,000, $4,000, you get the idea. So the two numbers that I have to choose from, and I'm not going to split them because, like I said, that's just not my thing. The two numbers that I've got to choose from would be 3 and 35. I think I can get 3 for this real easy. Maybe too easy. And especially with the way it's coming around and the way it's tight and the way it's low mileage and the way it feels reliable, to me, I'm starting to think 35 really ought to be my number. So here's where we're at. Last big AutoZone haul brings us up to about 2. I think I can get out for 35, and that's real healthy in my opinion. I'll probably put 40 hours into it at the end of the day. I don't know what that hourly comes out to, but the point is not here to make money. I do this this is fun for me. I love this. I'm just trying to do my hobby and stay above water. And being able to do my hobby while making money at it keeps it sustainable. That is the point. So, with all that being said, here is our treasures. We got a couple of wipers, because I drove this thing in the heavy fog yesterday, and of course the wipers are shot. You got to put wipers on a car to sell it, right? Got some microfiber pads. I got some tire spray, which I'm hoping kind of moistens up this cracked rubber, and maybe at least takes the attention away from the crackedness of it. With this black trim, mirrors, grill, bumpers, all this stuff, got a couple options. You can spray it, spray paint it, I mean, or you can get this stuff that I believe you wipe this on, and it's supposed to basically re-blackify the existing black, as opposed to put new black on top of your old black. So seems like a little bit, maybe if it works, easier / cleaner method. I'm just incredibly thrilled with this paint, which brings me to my next point, purchase. As far as cleaner wax, it's a couple bucks less than what I normally do on a nice car. I normally do the Carnauba, I don't know how to say it. But because, I don't know, this is an old truck and still got some residue that we're hoping to pull off with the wax. For some reason I said, well, that says cleaner on it and it's $2 cheaper, so maybe I'll do that. I got some grease because at some point I am going to grease the chassis when I change the oil. I do already have the stuff for the oil change. Freon with stop leak, a belt, a headlight because one of our headlights is dead. I've learned that from driving this thing around a little bit. I may have a 9000 on the shelf that I can trade that in for and return that for my money. And then finally, our tiny fuses for the radio. So that's all our stuff. Got a bunch of nice, cheap, easy work ahead of us that ought to be real gratifying, I think. And like I said, home stretch on this thing. So this is unwaxed. This whole side of the truck is unwaxed. This whole side of the truck is waxed. And the bed's a little rough, but man, if I may say so myself, I think this paint job looks like pure money. All right, so I was walking up on the porch to go in for a minute, and I caught a really good angle. You can see down that hood. Yeah, that's the money shot. Or that roof, there is a line, just a straight up line where it's waxed and unwaxed. And the shininess difference from up here is just unbelievable. And now for the final product. At least, post wax. Still gotta do a few more things. Gonna try and spray some stuff on these tires. Hydrate them a little, moisturize. All right, now while we're waiting for our new tires in the can to dry, and try this stuff out. Apparently you just put it on the cloth and wipe it on, and it makes the black stuff be black again. All right, next up, a couple of Duralast 18 inchers. Got these old worn out ones out of here. I was almost afraid to set these packages down on the paint. Got our new Duralast wipers in. That'll be a big improvement. God love the J-hook design. So our experiment with this AutoZone Reblackify stuff. I think this is good stuff. I think that I was trying it on some applications it's not 100% cut out for. Now it says it only works on vinyl and plastic. Like I said, this bumper is painted metal, and it may have been repainted once before, and it may look a little bit better when it dries, but it may not. This grill, I would have liked for it to work on the grill. However, there's evidence up here with these little dripsies that this plastic has been repainted once in the past, and I do not know how well this stuff is supposed to work on painted plastic. So I don't think that anything up here is quite what this stuff is cut out for. Now the mirrors, They seem to look better. Again, I do kind of feel like maybe these were also painted at one point in their life. But for now, they seem to have taken well to it. This actually took well to it. It's a little thing, you can't really tell, but it did. And same for that. And for instance, these little door buttons, they were really, really gray. As soon as I put that stuff on them, they blacked right back up again. So I do think that this is a good product with some applications. And another thing that it seemed to work on is this. Now, it's not dry yet, but, you know, I can tell just from what it seemed to do that this definitely responded well to it. Now, using all of my automotive electrical skills, I will now insert the new tiny fuse. I think it worked. All right. Now, with all of my additional remaining automotive electrical skills, I will plug in this box to the connectors. We got the Bluetooth hooked up. I thought I only had one headlight out. Headlights turned on now, but now it kind of looks like both my headlights are out. Well, let's replace bulb number 1, and hopefully maybe that second one just decided to blow on us. It's not some kind of crazy weird wiring thing. Yeah, nothing I'm doing is getting these lights to come on. So here's what I know about the situation. I'm pretty sure when I bought this thing, one headlight works. I'm pretty sure it was this one. I was driving it around yesterday after I replaced the headlight switch, which could be a theoretical culprit. And from what I remember, that was still the case. This one was working, that one was not. I've tried every different combination of bulbs in here. I've tried high beams, low beams. Check the fuse. Fuse is over there. Fuse is fine. Tail lights come on, which leads me to believe it is not the switch. I think the switch is doing the stuff that the switch needs to do. I think. Yeah, this is, I'm kind of stumped. I don't think it could possibly be too huge of an issue. But it is, mystifying. Yeah, so here's my one clue, is when I push this stalk in, I should get brights. I don't get brights. When I pull for momentary, I do get brights, and I also get a voltage drop. Oh, and I can see the brights coming on. Yes, I can. I can see the brights coming on. Okay, so both the brights are working. That makes me suspect this, and I almost wonder if I may have, when I was in here fooling with this column, disturbed something in here. The other thing I want to point out, because I really do like this thing, that noise, that rattling sound, that has been present since day one. And it goes away when the truck is warm. Oh, you know what it is? I think that my mouse is hitting that tab. All right. That's the first time cranking it that I have not had that rattling sound. What did I have to do? I removed the timing tab. And yeah, I know, to be official, this thing should have a timing tab on it. So I'm poking around this switch a little bit, just checking the electrical connections for any signs of obvious craziness. But you know, based on the symptoms that we're seeing, which is we got momentary brights, but we don't have headlights or full-on brights. That just tells me it's something internal to this. I don't think it'd be something external to this. And also it has some writings on it, like it looked like it came out of a junkyard to begin with. I was on my way to walk out the door to pickleball just now. And I'm trying to walk down my driveway. As I'm walking away from my house, my head is just turned like an owl. And I'm walking down the street, and I'm thinking, when am I gonna get far away enough that I stop looking and staring at this thing? But the evening light on it, man. Whew. So I thought, you know what? I am just gonna take this opportunity. That is the lighting right there. Morning light, evening light on a car. If you're ever trying to take nice pictures. But I'm telling you, I was trying to walk away from the house. And I am not kidding. I just didn't want to stop looking back. I tried to shut that hood earlier, and I almost couldn't, my hand almost slid off. I mean, that's like legitimate paint. Look at those trees. All right, new day, new game plan, new morning, new treasures. I got a coolant elbow that I need. This is that new blinker stock, which I think is going to solve our headlight problem. I'm hoping it's going to solve our headlight problem. So a little bit disappointed and mystified. My blinker stock, new multi-function switch, whatever you want to call that thing, didn't fix the problem. I still have all my lights, blinkers, taillights, etc., except my headlights, and I have momentary high beams, but not permanent high beams. Very confusing, and yeah, I do not know what the next step is, but hopefully I can at least replace this thing, or turn it back in for the money, because it was, they didn't give it to me. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So this is the headlight switch that I got from the junkyard. And you would think, switch from a junkyard, why would you not suspect that first? And of course, I had a theory as to why that was not, because the momentary high beams came on. So I figured that this had to be fine. So anyways, I stopped and thought and tried to be less angry and do my anger management, and decided, well, maybe I should just take a moment, take a breather, and think about this switch right here. And I don't really have diagnosed anger management problems. But anyways, so I took this into my house, sat it down on the desk there, and I started probing around, and that on all these Fords, doesn't matter what year or what switch really, this red and yellow is kind of McDonald's looking. This McDonald's wire right here, that is out to the headlights. So one of these is power in. I don't know which, I don't care which. But I probed for continuity with this between the McDonald's wire and every other pin on this connector. And I had continuity between none of them with the headlight switch on. So then here's what I did. This little button right here, it is called the knob release switch. What on earth that means or what it does, I don't know. I got curious and I pressed it. After that, when I would start to pull the headlight switch out, it felt different. It felt way clickier going into engaged. And so then I probed it once again with this, and I think it was the bottom left pin for the first time had continuity with the headlight out, the McDonald's pin. And I thought, I wonder if I had stumbled onto something. You know, all the frustration and the pissed offness that doing this stuff brings you sometimes, it's worth it all for that. All right, I now have 2 headlights and 2 high beams. You know, when I first saw that headlight out, I wasn't expecting to spend like half a day chasing it around. And you know what? Between yesterday evening and this morning, that is about what that cost me. Crazy how that happens. Figured that would be like the easiest low-hanging fruit ever. So we're up to $1,919. Our list of things is going down. There's still quite a bit. But I'm gonna say a lot of these are real, I think, quick, easy, fast, and we're gonna see how many of these we can knock out today. Also, now that it is the next day, TM, want to come back through, and now that this tire shine has had a chance to kind of dry up and it's a nice even dry coat, take a look at what that did for us. You know, I've never been a fan of tire shine from like a cosmetic, purely cosmetic standpoint. This was the really bad tire. But in this case, these tires had just been neglected for so long. They were so dry rotted and gray that just that moisture, really the rubber just wicked it up, and these tires just look substantially better. For a $10 spray out of a can, I'd say that was well worth our while. All right, so got her in the garage. If nothing else, just to increase the classiness factor. Feel like a better neighbor when I'm out here doing this as opposed to trashing the place up, working in my driveway. And here's our old oil, so oil change complete. I kept a good beam of light on the oil as it was draining. Made sure to check the appearance, condition, if there's anything of interest in there. Looks clean to me. I don't see any bearing material, doesn't smell like gas. Feels a little bit thin to my hands. But I did have half a can of Berryman's in there. All right, so I went ahead and got a wrench on the exhaust manifold bolts. Probably a little bit more than 50% of them were a little loose. And one of them, I think it was toward the back on this side, was just completely visually loose. And it was like, yeah, it was like 10 turns out or something. All right, so there's our steering gear. And the procedure for tightening this is that nut that I've got a wrench on, that's the lock nut. It's 5/8, you loosen that, it's pretty tight. It's got that nylock on it, and you can see that green stuff. That green stuff was where they marked it from the factory for, you know, warranty purposes, or basically, hey, don't mess with this, it's important and you're gonna break it purposes. And then that threaded stud operates on a hex key. And I believe we're just going to drive that hex key in until we feel resistance. That's how I understand the procedure, and hope we don't break anything. All right, procedure complete. I don't really have much guidance to go off for how much to tighten this thing. So I just went a little bit, and the steering felt substantially tighter, I think. I mean, I could get in there and grab the wheel, and as soon as I grabbed the wheel, in either direction, the wheels would start to turn. Whereas before, there was quite a bit of play in the steering wheel before the wheels would turn, I think. So they say not to go too much because you can bind up the steering, you can cause premature wear on the gear. So we're gonna road test that and see how that feels. All right, next stop, valve cover bolts, or studs, fasteners, whatever the hell they're called. Very first one, this is actually the one that inspired me to do this. We were on the passenger side front, and I've already turned it a couple turns in, and this is obviously just hand tight, but yeah, and it's still going. Is it stripped out, for Pete's sake? Oh, is that what we're gonna find? All right, so valve cover bolts update. I went ahead and got a wrench on almost all of them, you know, all the ones that were, all the lower ones certainly, and all the ones that were easily accessible. And they were pretty much all a little loose, which is kind of par for the course for valve cover bolts. I mean, you don't want to get them in there too tight to begin with, because then you can cause even more problems than having them a little bit loose. So I snugged them all down. One or two were very tight, or sorry, very loose, but I tightened them up. And then this one right here, the first one, like I was saying earlier, that one is stripped out. Now, I don't think it's the end of the world if we can't fix this, because this never had a very severe oil leak, and it's an old Ford, for Pete's sake. But in the interest of due diligence, at some point, not today, but at some point, I will try and retap that hole and procure new hardware for it. All right, we're coming to the end of our day. New belt is on, and new coolant elbow is in. All right, so I was able to locate 5 grease points in total, most of which were on the steering. Drive shaft on this is sealed. The factory ball joints on the front are sealed, except you can see here on the passenger side, the lower ball joint is a replacement that is greasable. The other 4 points were the 2 tie rod ends, and then these 2, I don't know, drag link, pitman arm, whatever those are called. I want to take it for a spin around the block now and see if anything's improved. That rattling is gone, thank God. That is not a good noise. That oil pressure gauge, it does about what my other OBS does. The belt squeal is gone. Man, this thing runs so good, it idles so good. Man. That was a good test drive. This thing used to pull hard to the left, even after that alignment. It doesn't pull anymore. The belt squeal's gone, completely gone. I bet that tensioner will hold up fine. What else? I mean, this thing sounds amazing. Oh man, so many random things I did today. And the payoff has just been, this thing is awesome. So this is our old to-do list that we either complete a bunch of stuff and or decided not to do a few things. And so that to-do list is now absolute. This is our new to-do list, and it's a lot cleaner than the last one. This headlight on this side is cracked and it's fogged up. That's why the headlight died in the first place. And then on the other side, that orange side marker light is cracked. So we need at least one headlight, at least one side marker light. You know what? I just bought this morning on eBay for $76 after shipping and tax. After shipping and tax, an entire kit of all 3 lights for both sides, 2 headlights, 2 blinkers, and 2, I don't know what those are called, parking lights. Like I said, we were at 1919. My overarching number that I had in mind was 2,000 that I was trying to head toward. And so I figured, well, this is our list that we got left of priorities. This is our existing number. And you got to remember, you got to keep track of every single dime, because when you're starting out at this, it's easy to just be like, oh, well, that was, I went and spent $5 at AutoZone, and well, I got something else that was $10, and then I went to pull apart, and that was 13, but that doesn't really, and then you get to the end of the day, and you say, well, you know, oh, I only spent, you know, $5 on the hardware to fix this truck. It's like, I really like to know that I'm being conservative and realistic with my accounting. So, with all that being said, we were in 1919. That eBay headlight set brought us to just shy of 2. I'm about to go get a couple pieces of hardware from the hardware store, like literally a less than $10 hardware store run. And I think we're gonna nail 2 on the absolute nose. All right, so get some before shots of the interior. Yeah, loose debris, vacuum, armor all, finally Windex the windows. I'm betting that some of these surfaces in here, and the seat's always gonna be cracked, but I'm betting some of these surfaces in here are gonna respond quite well to the armor all. Here's an after on the exterior. The day that I cleaned this out was very sunny and had a lot of shadows. Now it's nice and overcast and later in the day, so I think this better captures how it came around. I got a bunch of dirt tracked in on the front floorboard there, just from me getting in and out. And the seats are ripped, dash is ripped. It's just always going to be like that. It's and the headliners. I mean, I gotta stop talking. Anyways, it's fine. Look at it, it's fine. All right, next task of the day. This stripped out valve cover hole. Gonna try and tap it. Got some new hardware from Ace Hardware. Gonna try and put that in there. See how that goes. All right, mission accomplished. It sticks out like a sore thumb, but hey, it works. Threads tapped out all right. And on to the next one. And as promised, the next one, that is our missing motor mount bolt hole. And the threads look nice and clean. However, when I was under here, I realized, you know, I got a theory as to why that's the one they skipped out of all of the motor mount, because the other side's good. That is the hardest of all of them to get to. So good thing, bad thing. I mean, the good news is they may have skipped it not because the threads were stripped out, which was my original fear. They may have just skipped it out of laziness, which I think would benefit us. We'll see if we can do this without dropping the oil filter. I would hate to do that. I cannot believe how easy that was. I was under here for not even 5 minutes, or anywhere close to it, I don't think. All right, so went ahead and threw my can of Freon in. AC system is up to pressure, and it was working before. Oh, there it goes. Huh, okay. Well, maybe it just needs another can. The crazy thing is it was working before, and I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if there's a short or it's just not seeing enough pressure. I'm guessing it's just not seeing enough pressure. I'm not real concerned about it. Also, just a minute ago I spotted where the manifold bolts the pipe. There's a slight exhaust leak there. Oh, you could fix that up if you wanted to be real official, probably more official than I'm going for. You know, I got down there and I sprayed those bolts down for that donut there where the manifold goes to the pipe, and I got a wrench on them, and they felt good and tight to me, and I just thought, you know what? Exhaust is one of those things. I just do not feel any shame in leaving it to the professionals, and I don't want to break anything that's really not too terribly broken in the first place, just to go after something that probably doesn't matter. Man, I wish I'd been recording before I turned the key. First cold start in a couple weeks, something like that. If not 2 weeks, then close to it. That tailpipe is totally cleared up at this point. Man, this thing is a freaking beaut. Alright, so just got done throwing that can in there. AC is on in the cab. Compressor is cycling. AC is complete as far as this cowboy is concerned. I gotta get that oil pressure indication fixed. When you first start this thing, that oil pressure indication, it was acting weird today, and I hope that's just a switch. I think that's just a switch. But I need to just grin and bear it, put a manual gauge on this thing and see what that's all about. Inquiring minds gotta know, you know. All right, commencing oil pressure test. All right, 50 pounds on a cold start. All right, so the truck's been operating for 15 minutes now. And it's up to operating temp. It's been on and off the O on normal, which is as warm as this one gets, or mine for that matter. As of right now, we are still at 36 pounds, 37 pounds. That is solid oil pressure for a 4302. That's actually much better than mine is. All right, so I'm back from AutoZone with my new oil pressure switch for this thing. Notice I said switch and not sending unit, even though this truck has a gauge. And that brings me around to the theory of operation on the Ford gauge, oil pressure gauge setup of this era. So these oil pressure gauges are not true gauges, they are glorified dummy lights. And the way this works is these oil pressure switches, they're either open or closed. So at zero oil pressure, they're open. Infinite resistance, gauge is at zero. On any oil pressure above, I believe, 7 psi, these switches close. And so obviously zero resistance. Now at zero resistance, the gauge, that should correspond to the gauge in the cab reading dead center of the band on the gauge, which again is not really a gauge, it's essentially a glorified dummy light that's made up to look like a gauge. Now with anything electrical, as with anything electrical, these can build up resistance over time, right? So I mean, think about your little switch. You know, it closes when it's brand new, shiny yellow contacts are nice. That switch closes and those little contacts have zero resistance. Well, as they get older and flakier, they build up some level of resistance. Now, if zero resistance is, infinite resistance is zero on the gauge, and zero resistance is new way on the gauge, then some level of resistance, which theoretically is built with time, some level of resistance is somewhere below midpoint of the gauge, maybe low on the gauge. This gauge is always read low, like kind of disturbingly low, if you were going to try and buy this truck, in my opinion. And as we've just shown, this truck does not have oil pressure issues. However, it's a big cosmetic issue in my opinion. If you're trying to sell something and the oil pressure gauge looks a little bit non-comforting, right? So, and it's fine because it does come up some, and I know it's fine, but to any potential buyer, they say, well, why is oil pressure low in band? I mean, or low in the range. Anyways, my point is, I'm hoping that slapping this in will bring our oil pressure gauge up a little bit from where it was at to the center of the range. This cost me $5. It was a $15 switch, and because I had some AutoZone points, that was $10 off. So after AutoZone points, this was a $5 piece. It's kind of pain in the ass to change them out. But if we can get that gauge up just a couple notches, I just think that makes it a whole lot more reassuring to any potential buyer as a sale. So I would really love to see that improvement. It would make me happy. All right, so new oil pressure switch is in. Let's see if that bought us anything. And we got 0. Yeah, hey, that looks way better. Yeah, and it jumped up immediately. That before that old switch, like, it would kind of like bounce around a little bit and then finally kind of get up to the end in normal. We are dead center of the gauge, which is exactly how this was designed, basically to sit exactly like that. See how that's pointing just straight down towards the ground? Yeah, that's really nice. That's cool. I'm glad I did that. Another good thing to check for on these trucks is any stored codes. I actually did see a check engine light on earlier, a little while ago, when I first started up cold. I believe that's the first time I've ever seen a check engine light on this thing. It did go away, but I'm sure it'll have some stored codes. So for these old OBD1 Fords, this is how you do it. Paper clip, those are the pins you want to jump. Pretty readily available online, how to do that. And then you sit in here. It's pretty luxurious with all that armor on. 1, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 3. Oh, hold on. God dang it. I'm already lost. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3. 2 maybe? This is tough. Listen, I'm gonna put the phone down and I'll report back. This is hard enough even without trying to record it. All right, so these are our codes. The 334 is an EVP, which I think has something to do with the something EGR. The other two are more of interest, 122 and 124. Those are both related to the TPS sensor. Very common issue of area of concern or area of issue on these, the TPS sensor, because they are known to go bad and have issues, and they are known to affect the way the thing runs when they have issues. So we're at about $2,100 now between the last few things that we got. So our remaining list of things to do, there's only 3 things left that are not crossed out on this list. This is what I want to attend to today. So I continue to be shocked and amazed how easy this thing is to work on. This truck, it's low mileage, very clean, very good shape. Really goes a long way when you're working on something this old, because a lot of these EGR valves do not come off easy at all. That thing came off just as smooth as butter. So into the intake manifold, out of the exhaust. EGR, just a valve, in from the exhaust, and then out to the intake manifold. Get a look in there. It's not too dirty. Kind of hard to get the light on it, but I promise it's not too dirty in there. But the problem is these build up with carbon, and it causes the valve not to be able to seat fully. And that code that we got is emblematic of that. EGR not being able to fully seat due to carbon buildup. So try and arrange my light in a way that this is visible. There we go. This is the exhaust side of the EGR, and there's, I suppose it's accurate to call that the valve seat. But anyways, you see these chunks of carbon right here? My suspicion, I believe what's happening, they're all around the end of this valve, and I believe what's happening is those big chunks of built up carbon are the thing that is preventing this thing from seating fully when it's supposed to be in the fully seated position, which is essentially what that code means. So if we can clean this guy out on the bench, slap it back in, I think that ought to be our code. Yeah, really good thing to do, cheap, easy, free, and as long as the EGR comes unstuck easily, absolutely no reason not to do it. So our EGR has now been professionally cleaned, and I just want to point out something. You know, you always want to use your alternate indications, as they say, for diagnosis and making sure you're doing the right thing. So what I did here was I used a combination of carb cleaner spray, some dental tools, and some strategic tapping with the hammer to just try and remove all those carbon deposits out of here. Now, the thing that I want to point out is that when I started doing this, is I would be spraying the carb cleaner down this hole, and some of it would be dripping out of this hole. In fact, it was a steady stream at first, and the more I cleaned it, that would go down to where it was just a dribble. And now if you spray carb cleaner down this hole, the idea is this valve should be closed, it was sticking open. Now if you spray a good gargle of carb cleaner down here, you will not get any coming out down here. So that is a good indication that our surveillance here has had the intended function, and I believe we can call this a success. Slap this guy back on, and I bet that cleared that EGR valve code. So that's a real great success, I think. Rip the throttle body off of that TPS sensor. Got my gasket surface all spiffed up again. And our throttle body, new TPS sensor, old TPS sensor. To be honest with you, I own both of these out. I don't know if you're supposed to be able to tell a whole lot without power on them, but they didn't seem to ohm out a whole lot differently. Either way, TPSs are known to go bad on these. We got 2 stored TPS codes. I'm just doing it. It's cheap enough, it's easy enough. I'm just doing it. All right, so with our freshly cleaned out EGR valve, I want to get to the cosmetic stuff. Like I said, gonna spray the bumpers, spray the grill, change out those headlights. I may not get all that done today, but I'm at least gonna start on the prep. So I have no idea what I'm doing in this regard. So I got this drill-based paint stripper, maybe a little bit overkill for what I'm doing. I have no idea. This is all very experimental. And then I got way at the other end of the spectrum, 400 grit sanding brush. And I got this stuff, which is, you know, to go over to remove debris before the paint. And then I got a can of spray paint, not pictured. And yeah, see if we can clean the bumpers up. Probably start with the rear. All right, this is the front bumper. And this is what I'm calling prepped. I spent all of about 12 minutes on this. And I know it's bad, but, you know, yeah, let's spray some stuff on there and see what it looks like. All right, well, I'm not sure how good the lighting is. And obviously we still got to do the grill and the lights and all the trim around them. But honestly, for as crappy of a job as I did, I would say that's a pretty significant improvement. So I don't feel too bad about it. Very minimal time and money investment there. And on the back, as a matter of fact, the back may have came out even better. And just to show you the difference, and this line doesn't matter because this is all going to be underneath some black trim, but that's the before and after line. I wasn't even really trying to do the top, but obviously before, after. So yeah. All right, so this is our progress on the headlight replacement project. It's a little more involved than you might think. I'll save some time to anybody attempting to embark on this and tell you the fastest way to go is to just go ahead and remove this header panel entirely. The first step is to take off both of the side pieces. The side pieces are not too bad. The 2 little lights come out with the bezels, so I got them off. You get the grill off, that's easy. And then this whole thing's got to come out. And it winds up being one of those Bernie Sanders jobs where the worst 1% of all the hardware causes 99% of the labor. So this little one right here, I don't even want to estimate how much time I spent on this, but that little backing nut, it broke off in such a fashion that it just was spinning on the back there. Y'all know what I mean. And I couldn't really get to it in any way to make this easier. So I just had to use a bunch of different methods and tools and stuff to try and get that off. But other than that, I mean, there's really nothing to it. Bunch of little 8mm, and you zip them off and the whole thing comes off. And now we got our headlights. And the reason why you have to take this whole thing off, and there's a couple reasons. Number one, I got some corroded hardware for the smaller lights on both sides that is going to be easier to remove with this off. But the other thing is these headlight assemblies are held in with these little clips. These 3 clips are the things that actually hold these headlight assemblies into this header panel. And theoretically, I suppose, with an infinite amount of time and wisdom and tools, you could get those detached with it in the vehicle, but realistically, I don't know how you would do it, and I don't think that's how most people do it. So anyways, yeah, this is where we're at. I'm gonna try and get those new headlight assemblies on this header panel, disassemble both the bezels, get the bezels sprayed with some black stuff, get the grills sprayed with some black stuff, get the new little lights into the bezels, and reassemble all this, and hopefully the hard part's behind us. And on today's episode of If It Works, Is It Really a Dumb Idea? It works. All right, new headlights are in. Header panel's all reinstalled. We're now about to spray the components. All right, this is the finished product. I would warn not to get too close to it, because if you see it in high definition, it's pretty clearly not a professional job. But I think it's an improvement. And yeah, it'll keep drying a little bit more in the light of day. We'll see what it looks like, but I'll tell you what. Yeah, it's better. All right, one of the final touches. Decided to throw a couple new door striker things on this. One of the best things to do when you're selling an old Ford, these are 15 bucks a pop. They wear out really bad. They cause the doors to rattle and be hard to close. One of the first things anybody notices when they get in here. This is the old one. They had tried to doctor it up with some kind of tape at some point, but best to just replace them. They're 15 bucks a pop, so we'll slam that in, see if that makes us any nicer here. New striker installed. Literally the most gratifying repair of all time. This door, I was afraid there was something more wrong with it. It even shuts straighter on the body now. It always was pretty flush up here and a lot less flush down here. But this door always wiggled. My cousin was riding in it and he was like, "Is this door closed?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, it's closed as good as it can be. It just really rattles really bad." Extremely easy repair, and you don't have to slam this thing anymore. That's yeah, extremely gratifying. All right, well, I'm taking her on one final maiden voyage. I guess that's not really how that works, but I mean, what I mean to say is this thing's a maiden, and we're taking it on a voyage, and just want to give it one more heat cycle and make sure I really think that it seems okay before I wash it, take some pictures of it in the driveway, and place it onto the Craigslist delicately. You know, it seems like an old truck. Seems perfectly fine. I got the heat running. I don't know what else to say. I don't know if there's a whole lot left to do with this thing. This thing honestly feels really legit. I think it's a strong truck. I think the engine is good, trans is good, radio's good, AC and heater good. It's really comfortable. It idles really well. It's nice to drive around town in. It's nice to be in. It just seems solid. Be honest with you, I really am. And I know I'm a dirtbag car salesman, but I'm telling you, I really think this thing's, I honestly wish someone in the family needed this. Yeah, she's washed. But the problem is you get to the end here and it gets hard to find a good stopping point. You know, I would love to throw a windshield on this thing. I'd love to throw a second gas tank on it. I'd love to throw a headliner on it. I'd love to wax it again because this paint would absolutely just soak up another coat of wax and it would really make a material difference. Same with the inside, all that vinyl would really like another spray of Armor All. It would eat it up, it would soak it up, and it would be so good for it. But I don't have infinite time. And all this stuff is easy and cheap, but it adds up. And then you've got like this little, you know, they sell these for what? $5. These are on the shelf at AutoZone. I mean, if I happen to be going to AutoZone today, maybe I'd pick another one up. But I mean, like I said, where do you call it quits? Then you got that exhaust leak. It's not a bad exhaust leak. It's the donut gasket where the passenger side header here bolts up to the pipe. And it's like, well, hell, you know, I'd love to pay an exhaust shop a few bucks to do that for it, because I'm not going to do it myself, being honest with you. I'd love to pay an exhaust shop a few bucks to do that. Be really nice. You know, it's about the last mechanical or semi-mechanical thing wrong with it. But look, I'm going to ask $35 for it. It's a 1994. Implicit in that whole scene is some level of defects. And what you're shooting for with these flips is not perfection. You're shooting for the appropriate level of defects that the market expects for the price that you're asking. And I feel like we're parking her right there. Basically, so I put it onto the Craigslist, and let's see if we can. Where is our Craigslist? And the Facebook, and I also put it out front of my house with a for sale sign, like I did, you know, everything. I have had this vehicle for sale for fewer than 24 hours, like way fewer. Like I put it up last night, so like we haven't even had like this thing has been for sale for like 4 hours of daylight at this time, like not very long. Here it is. So it's like I always say, there's a few things I always say about selling a car. Like, number one, take the best pictures you can. Like, this is not professional photography. I suck at pictures. I didn't even use the real camera. I just use the iPhone. I suck. Everything sucks. I suck. I'm bad. I'm not good at this, but like I kind of tried, you know, like I kind of tried. Just a tiny bit. So, number one, you gotta take good pictures. The pictures are everything. So this row should be like another 10. So let's say that's 30. Let's see, Bruce was 30. Travis to Alonzo, we'll say that's 40. Tex-Mex to Aiden, we'll say that's 50. And then Bryson and Stewart, 52. That's Facebook alone. That's not text. That's not phone call. That's not email from Craigslist. Because I've gotten a few texts and emails and phone calls too. A handful. But that's 52 Facebook messages alone. I can't respond to these guys as quick as they are coming at me. I mean, I'm fighting them off. You know, I'm sending the Kamala Harris. I'm like, look, do not come. You know, and I'll tell you how that happened. Is now the pictures are great. The pictures are very important. There's two things that are important. The pictures, just don't be a lazy ass. Just don't be a lazy ass. Just park it in a nice, clean driveway. Nothing fancy, just a driveway that doesn't have anything else in it. Park it in a nice, clean, open space. Stand far away and and zoom in and take the pictures. Don't go close-ups. Stand far away and zoom in, and like do it in decent lighting. Overcast is good. Wash it. Don't have other shit parked next to it. Don't make it look like it's in some kind of a trash pit, etc., etc. Just don't be an idiot, okay? Here's the other thing, and here's what people people understand that. People understand pictures. I mean, apparently not everybody does, because a lot of people suck at it, but people, I think, generally understand the concept. Here's what people don't understand is pricing. People think, oh, well, you know, I think this is worth 3 or 4, so I'm going to ask 5. Like, that's, if I had been thinking the way most people think, and it's not their fault, because they don't sell cars regularly, and they don't know what to do. But if I'd been thinking like a normal person, I'd have taken one look at this truck and thought, I think it's worth 3 or 4, so I'm gonna list it for 5, see what happens. Stupid idea, dumb plan. Not a smart plan. If you think it's worth 3 or 4, then list it for 35. And like I expounded on this before, why I think it's stupid to list cars high. You're just gonna drive everyone away. And here's the even worse thing that people do, because I kind of understand the concept of pricing a car high because they don't want to leave money on the table. It's dumb. It's not smart. I promise you. But I get it. Here's what people do that has no upside is when people get tired of, now when you put one of these on the Facebook, you're going to get a bunch of messages from people who are not serious. People who just ask you if it's available and then never respond, or they just immediately shoot you a ridiculously lowball offer, or, you know, they want to trade, or for whatever reason, they're just not serious, right? You're going to get plenty of them. here's the thing, is one of the aspects of being a used car salesman is you turn into a customer service professional. And there's a reason why customer service professionals make money while not contributing anything to production. It's because you're getting paid to get shat on. If you're a cashier, you're getting paid to get shat on. If you're a used car salesman, you're getting paid to get shat on. And you have to show back up every single day with a big smile on your face and, you know, act like you love it even when you're getting shat on. That's what you're getting paid for. If I didn't want to get retail money for this truck, I could take it down to CarMax and they'd give me $1,500 for it, and then I wouldn't have to deal with people. Guess what? You want that extra $2,000? You have to deal with people. So you have to be as a customer service person. You have to understand, if you're trying to sell this car, like you don't want to sell this car, take it down to a local dealership and they'll give you a cash price. It's not gonna be much, but they'll give it to you. If that's what it's worth to you to not deal with people, then that's fine. But like if you want to sell a car, it's customer service, and you're gonna have all these people who annoy you, who piss you off, and like you can't take it personally. You can't let it get under your skin. Like, what does it really cost you? If somebody asks you, is it available, and you say yes it is, and they never respond, what is it really costing you? Next to nothing. What is it costing you if somebody like tells you and says, hey, you know, would you take $1,500? It's like, God, no, I wouldn't. Fuck you. But I'm not going to say that. I mean, oh, well, you know, I really think I can get $3,500 and I got a lot of interest. And that's the other thing, is when you got 52 people Facebooking you all at once, like, the instant somebody even thinks about talking price with you, you're like, whoa, dude. Like, sorry, man. Like, I really can't talk price because there's a lot of interest in this thing. And it's true. Like, I really can't. And with all these people sitting right here, like, there's no way I'm going to even think about coming down $1. Like, I have an extraordinary amount of confidence in my ability to sell this thing for exactly what I want it for very quickly. All right, so the prospective buyers are here. First ones I've gotten. All right, so second potential buyers just showed up. All right, so third prospective buyer is here. Yeah, he's gonna take it around the block, see what he thinks of it. All right, so the fourth potential buyer is supposedly like 5 minutes away. All right, possibly the final maiden voyage. I am heading to the MARTA station on the west side of town to meet the gentleman who said he would buy this, and he probably won't because he's yanking my chain just like everybody else. I'm just kidding, I'm not really that cynical. I'm sure he's totally gonna buy it. I can't really hold anybody to buy anything. What if he hates it? I mean, I can't help it if he doesn't. It's not his fault. It's not anybody's fault. Nothing's anybody's fault. And I'm happy with everything. This is the sixth person now. You know, I've showed it. I had a really nice gentleman come by this morning. Really cool. Really liked the truck. Told me it was great. I was gonna have no trouble selling it. He was like 3. I was like 35. He was like, sorry for wasting your time. I was like, you're really cool. Thanks for coming. And it's whatever. Like, and now here I am, traipsing across God's creation at 3 o'clock in the goddamn afternoon, you know, and like, it's rush hour and I don't have a license plate. And I'm trying to help everybody. I'm helping everybody. Yeah, those people were not nearly as serious as they sounded on the phone. It's hard out here. They gave me a bunch of what they call dog peanut butter. I guess that's what they make for a living. So, here we go. He didn't even start it up. So now here we go, driving all the way back to the other side of town and wasting our gas at rush hour in the traffic with no license plate. Yeah. And I, like, as soon as they showed up, I kind of got a feeling like, oh man, these people are not as serious as I thought. Like I said, they were perfectly nice, but they just were not, they were not quite serious. All right, so prospective buyers number 7 are now out with the truck. At this point, like, it's just, this has become a revolving door.
Motor transmission is good for sure.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like the engine's really strong. It's really smooth. Like, it idles good. Yeah. It starts every time. Like, yeah. Oh, and also, I hooked a mechanical oil pressure gauge up to this thing once. It had 55 pounds at cold idle and had 38 pounds at hot idle. Which, the 38 pounds at hot idle really impressed me because, like, that one only has 18 at hot idle, and even that's considered to be, like, okay. So, like, Yeah, I've always felt like the engine and the trans in this thing are like, as far as I can tell, they're extremely solid.
Yeah.
So that neighbor.
No serious work had to be done when you bought it?
Yeah, so the reason I bought it was that somebody had tried to replace the alternator, and what they did was they broke off all the bolts for the alternator in the cylinder head.
Oh, God.
And they just were like, yeah, it was a mess. And they were just like, you know, fuck it, like I'm selling it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so that's how I got it.
cheap.
I got it not drivable. I got it cheaper. And so I had to like extract all the broken off bolts and retap the holes and get new hardware and yada, yada, yada.
You a mechanic?
I've been doing stuff like this. Like I've been
Humble.
like,
you about to give us the humble
You live
answer.
in our dream.
Nah,
You live
he
in our
just said he
dream.
extracted bolts from, like, so you did the work.
so yeah, so I'll tell you this. Like here, what happened was this. That's a 4302 V8. So everything that goes into it's American, but everything around it was metric by the 90s. So when they put this all back together, when they tried to put that alternator bracket on, they got the bolts mixed up and they put the metric thread stuff in the standard thread holes. So like if you've ever used an easy out bit for a drill, like most of the time it doesn't work.
Yeah.
They actually worked for this
wow.
one. Like I was surprised. It was not as bad of a repair as it was, but like it was still like, I mean it was legitimate mechanic work.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Smart.
Yeah.
So that's why I said you
I mean there was a reason why they threw their hands up and sold it when they couldn't figure it out. So yeah, I did that, and then once I did that, like I was just like, okay, well, like I'm gonna do the whole thing. Like I'm gonna wax it, clean it up, throw some new headlights on it. I did a bunch of basic maintenance on it, and it's like I can't even remember half the stuff I did to it, but it seemed like a lot. I just kept seeing little stuff, and I'd be like, oh, I can do that.
How long did it take you?
I've had it for about 2 months.
Oh, okay.
I bought it around Thanksgiving, and I was working on it on the weekends and stuff, and like I added everything up. Like I think I've got well over 40 hours in this thing.
Wow, you deserve it, man.
Like I mean, I don't know. Like that's including like driving around to AutoZone and picking it up and all that stuff. So, but the thing is, it's like the paint on it's good. Like if you look at the hood, if you look at like the cab and everything, like the paint on it's good. It's got low mileage.
Right.
Like it runs really freaking good. It's a V8.
Yeah.
For a 94, this is
Yeah, and the thing is, when I first got this thing running, and I realized the kind of shape it was in, I wanted to keep this and get rid of that because that's got
really?
298 on
Okay,
it.
yeah.
That one's got 298 on it. But like I realized that one's 4x4, which I use for certain things.
Right.
And sometimes I'll tow cars, and that thing has a 5,000 pound hitch.
Oh,
So I can actually tow, like, you would have to put a hitch on this thing to start towing cars.
Yeah, I'm gonna tow I got a landscaping business. So
Yes,
I'm gonna use it for
this is perfect for that. Like, it's got the bumper mounted hitch on it.
that. Yeah, I saw that. I looked it up. I'm like, can I tow my lawnmower with
Yes,
that?
I would think so because I think that's rated for 2,000. Yeah.
This is so
Do you take
pretty
Zelle?
much
Yeah, I would take Zelle, like, because I'm pretty sure, like, I can just, like, you can send it and I can, like, immediately look it up on Wells Fargo if it went through. So, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, now I see your money. Oh, can I see the title?
Oh yeah, there you go. And then I got a bunch of receipts. There's even some receipts from the people I got it from. Like it had like an ignition tune-up not that long ago.
Okay, I see your ID with it.
Oh yeah, my wallet's in the house.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, here's your keys, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Which,
Appreciate it.
yeah, I assume you're not gonna run away with the title, like. Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And do I just Zelle it to your phone number?
Yeah, you can try and look me up by phone number. I'll make sure the Zelle goes through before you leave for sure.
Okay,
But yeah.
cool.
Yep.
I'm happy.